Hey, what's going on? It is Thursday, and we've got a great show, a lot of crazy news. I want to talk about how Lucasfilm and Disney are no longer going to make Star Wars stories or standalone Star Wars films. That's a crazy story. We're going to break down all of the details and what that could mean for the future of Star Wars. I also want to talk about this whole Comcast, Fox, Disney love triangle. Apparently, Disney has way upped its bid and will likely be acquiring the Fox assets. That does mean that Fantastic Four and X-Men will be going to the MCU. We're gonna break it all down right now. This is the Nerdy News Rundown, your daily dose for nerdy news. Let's get you filled in. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. I am, of course, your host, Josh, and man, we've got a good one. I also want to go into some details from the video I did last night, sort of read some of your comments, talk about the things that you are saying about this first Star Wars news. It's like the coffee tastes better when there's actual news to talk about. I don't know, maybe that's just me. So the first story, of course, is all about Star Wars. Lucasfilm, Kathleen, Kennedy, all of those people over there have made the decision that they are going to put all of the Solo movies on hold. Except, of course, the Solo movie that they probably should have put on hold, which has put us in this terrible predicament. Now, the video I did last night was all focusing majorly on the fact that the Obi-Wan film will no longer be made, at least anytime soon, because of this news. If you're curious my thoughts on that particularly, go check out the video I did last night. But for today's show, I wanted to talk about what the actual news really is. Now, what Disney is actually doing here is putting all of the production for these Solo movies or these standalone Star Wars movies on hold. It is said that they want to focus on Episode 9 and on saga films or trilogies after that. And it kind of appears like the big lesson that they took from the Solo failure was that maybe trying to do this whole Marvel model of movies where they could just pump them out, a couple months apart from each other is not going to work for Star Wars, and they need to instead make them ceremonial and a big deal. Now, something else that slipped in between the cracks yesterday within the news was reports that Disney is also no longer going to be going after new or fresh directors. Instead, they're going to go after experienced directors that they can trust to bring Star Wars movies to the screen without much of a hitch or problems behind the scenes. That's kind of a non-story to me. It almost already looks like that's the way that they were going to go. I mean, when you look at a Jon Favreau or Dan and Dave, or even James Mangold, who was attached to this Boba Fett movie, it is so clear that they are going after tried and true directors instead of the nice, young, hot talent. This is a good idea. This is probably one of the big errors that Lucasfilm made when trying to plot out what kind of Star Wars movies they wanted to do. They went after all of these new people, all of these hot names, and those people were really used to like a much smaller budget. And so when you throw them into production on a Star Wars movie with a $200 million budget, there are going to be issues. So that's officially the news. I saw a lot of people saying yesterday, well, look, the Obi-Wan film is not dead, it's just on hold. And to be fair, yes, that is the accurate way to talk about the story. All of these movies are on hold, but here's the thing. The thing that really surprised me yesterday was how close we were to getting the Obi-Wan film. It was not just like in production, like spec scripts and stuff like that. Like, no, they were moving pretty far along with that project and they decided to put it on hold. So I'm frustrated because I think that the movie that we could have got in as few as 2 years from now will be shelved for at least 5 years, maybe indefinitely. So in my opinion, yeah, the Obi-Wan film is totally dead because I just don't see them going that route anymore. They might use some of the stuff that they did for that movie, put him in a different film somewhere, maybe tell that story in a novel. I don't know, but the bottom line is I was incredibly frustrated because I found out how close we were to Obi-Wan and now we are not getting it. So what does this mean for the future of Star Wars? This is definitely a move because of what happened with Solo, right? I mean, everybody's pretty sure that's what's going on, although no official statements have been made. And kind of repeating something I said yesterday, it seems crazy to me that you do two standalone films, one of them cracks $1 billion, the other one loses you $80 million, and you're just like, no, that's it, we're done. But you could look at this as being positive in a sense, because at least Disney is acknowledging that there is a problem and they are making changes. So for them to focus more on the episodic films and the big movies, for them to not do the Marvel model, I think is a good thing. I'm excited that they are at least doing something, acknowledging the problem. And I think that this could be the first right step towards a new direction. Now, on the flip side of that, the negative aspect for me, and this is something I saw echoed in the comment section from the video I did last night, is like, man, this feels sort of tone deaf. The movie everybody really wanted was the Obi-Wan film, and now that film is sacrificed at the altar of a movie that nobody really wanted. Like, nobody wanted the Han Solo movie. That is a huge part of why it failed. And so this feels like another scenario of Hollywood people being completely tone deaf to what the actual fans want, what actual people are looking for in these movies. So it's likely the beginning of change, although it still feels pretty systemic as far as some of the problems and issues that are facing Lucasfilm and Disney right now. It's sort of frustrating for me as a fan. Even though I'm a big fan of most of the movies that they have made, it still just feels like, how hard is it to go make a dope Star Wars movie? It doesn't seem that difficult, and there are a million Solo movies that people would love to see. I've seen so many people throw out crazy ideas for movies, and they're not saga films. They're like one-off kind of films, and I am damn sure any number of those movies would very much succeed at the box office. Like an Ahsoka Tano movie. Dude, everybody wants an Ahsoka movie. What the hell are you doing, Disney? Get Dave Filoni and make him make an Ahsoka movie. Like, it's mind-numbingly easy. That would be huge. So that's basically the news out there about what Lucasfilm and Disney is doing. I want to know your thoughts, but I want to kind of do something a little bit special here. I want to go through some of the comments that I had in the video yesterday and address them here, because honestly, you guys had some really good points, some interesting things to say. Some of you totally suck, and I'm going to call you out. And so let's do this right now. It's going to be fun. Okay, so here's an interesting comment from Clark. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's kind of a lengthy comment, but essentially, and I think this is a guy, could be a lady, honestly, I don't know, but it says, why a Han Solo movie and not Kenobi? I'm wondering if the plan all along was to build up Han Solo in the sequels to have the Endgame eventually make future movies or trilogies about the Solo legacy after concluding the Skywalker one. Now, here's my honest to God answer to that, Claire. It's an interesting point, because with Ben Solo, of course, being the Skywalker of this trilogy and the possibility of him persisting into the future of the Star Wars line, yeah, it's interesting to think about whether or not they wanted that legacy to continue. But here's sort of my issue with that. You killed Han Solo in The Force Awakens, which honestly I thought that scene was dope, but you didn't necessarily need to do that, especially if you want that legacy to matter. And then you make the name Solo a weird moniker given to him by some cheeky Imperial. And so the name itself doesn't matter. There is no legacy there. And so my thing is, is that maybe a thought? Is that why they wanted to do it? Possibly. I think just Kasdan loves that character, and a lot of people at Lucasfilm love the Han Solo character, and they thought they could market around it. So, interesting point, Clark. I see where you're going with that, but I'm really not buying it. All right, here we go. Here we go. Sean Patrick. Sean Patrick has been very vocal in the comments lately. I don't know if any of you guys are aware of this, but yesterday he said several times something like, be honest with your fans. Be honest with your fans. Here, I'll read what he says here. All caps. Be honest to your fans, Den of Nerds. You know why Solo failed. You know most fans hated The Last Jedi. Fans like my sister and father who don't care anymore because Luke and Han are dead. Rey is powerful, but a no one. Snoke is dead, and they don't care about 9. The boycott was the only way to show Lucasfilm we're upset at the direction of blah, blah, blah. Please tell the truth. Come on!
You can't handle the truth.
All right, Sean Patrick, I'll tell the truth right now. I think you're crazy. I think you're absolutely crazy. Now, there's some truth in what you're saying, but you're so blinded by this need for the boycott and for your side to be correct. And you're crazy, man. Any logical thinking person will tell you that the boycott, while having some effect on the box office of Solo, is minuscule compared to the way that Lucasfilm is losing its mass mass audience. So here's the thing. When people say that maybe these Star Wars movies are a little bit confusing because they have never had the Marvel model, and now people are walking into these theaters for a movie like Rogue One and wondering where Rey is, which, by the way, that's not bullshit or hyperbole. My parents were that exact same way. I now go to all these Star Wars movies with my parents. I was doing it in December until, Solo came out, but it's been a nice family tradition, and they didn't realize that the Rogue One movie happened before A New Hope. So for hardcore Star Wars fans, that makes a lot of sense, and hardcore Star Wars fans are boycotting these movies if they're very upset, and I get that. I'm not trying to diminish your side, but you're being delusional. You think that the boycott is the reason that all of this is happening? I'm sorry, man. I'm going to tell the truth. I always tell the truth. I think that that's absolutely inaccurate. Now, I'm not one of these people like Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net or like Steele from the Steele podcast. I'm not one of these people that's in complete denial of what is actually happening. And I certainly don't think you're fake fans or real fans. There's this crazy thing going on with people being like, oh, you're not a real fan. Oh, you're a fake fan. Blah, blah, blah. Dude. That is absurd. Why are you guys fighting amongst each other? You have opinions. It's totally fine. But I am not one of those people that's in denial of your side. But damn, bro. Damn. Tell the truth to your fans. I'm telling the truth right now, dude. That it is not the boycotters. You're crazy. But that doesn't mean that there's not a big fucking problem with Star Wars. It doesn't mean there's not a big fucking issue that needs worked on. But, anyways, shout out to Sean Patrick anyways, because you're at least very vocal in the comments. I appreciate that. Al Schuler, definitely need to talk about what Al said here. By the way, Al is a huge supporter of the channel on Patreon. He's an executive producer for the channel. Shout out to Al. So he said, this is exactly what I was afraid of. They are knee-jerking and they don't seem to have any real direction. This is really sad and will only give credence to the crazy fans saying Star Wars is dead. Of course, it's nowhere near that, but these are the types of things that drive the crazy talk. Al goes on to say that he really wanted an Obi-Wan film. It could have been phenomenal. Hopefully Disney revisits it after episode 9. And Al goes on to say here, I'm curious, Josh, to know your take on what this means for Kathy Kennedy stepping down rumors and the general state of Star Wars. Do you think it's a scramble to maybe save her job, or is this a direction or a decision that needed to be made? Another thought, any possibility they will still move forward with the Obi-Wan film minus the branding of a Star Wars story? So interesting point here, man. I agree. I think the Obi-Wan film could have been dope. First of all, I do think this is knee-jerk. Like, there's no way around this. This is a knee-jerk reaction, but it's not that it's a knee-jerk reaction that upsets me or makes me think like, wow, they're really tone deaf. The reaction is just simply like not reading the room. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so clearly not reading the room. Like, for instance, they could do Star Wars stories. Like, if they're worried that people are confused, that casual audiences are confused, then, what would have been dope? A Knights of Ren movie or a Kylo getting trained by Snoke movie in between 7 and 8. I mean, and you could do that, you know what I mean? Or you could have a movie with Finn, him being acclimated to the Resistance and his new thing there, or Rey and Leia. Like, you could put a movie in between the movies that still exists in the timeline, maybe even referencing other things. So, for instance, that would have been way simpler than being like, nah, we're gonna scrap all of the Solo movies. So yeah, just in general, I just think it's just kind of a tone-deaf kind of response to them, but it could be the start of a ton of different changes that do turn the perception around. As far as your question about Kathy Kennedy is concerned, I still think she's stepping down. I do not think that this move was made to save her job, but instead could be thought of as a way to possibly save the tarnishment of her legacy. Like, I think the way that they'll paint this thing, and by the way, this is something that I actually agree with the haters on, is the fact that they will try to paint this in a way where they're not losing. Like, they're going to try to make this seem like it was always going to be her stepping down. It's been a good 4 years. We've been so successful, blah, blah, blah. Here's the new direction. And the bottom line is, I'm kind of frustrated by that as well, because although I'm a fan of Kathy and I'm a fan of Lucasfilm Star Wars, the fact that Star Wars has this perception of being this elitist brand that just shoos away a lot of people that have problems with it and sort of hides behind identity politics as a way to shield itself from criticism. You know, when you do that and then you take this elitist nose in the air approach to everything and you try to make Kathy look great and try to paint it as though it's not a problem, like that just feels disingenuous. So I think part of the reason that we have such a crazy divide is the fact that Star Wars isn't actually being honest. It's not actually putting its ego aside and talking to its fans. And who knows, maybe, you know, I don't run a billion-dollar company, so maybe that's not the right move. Maybe you got to seem like you're ironclad, but I just think that the way media is changing, it would actually be better if they were a little bit more upfront with people. I'm actually a big believer in that. It's something that we do here with our brand. But, you know, that's just kind of my thing. So as far as it saving her job, nah, I don't really think that's the way they're going to do it. I think they're going to axe her anyways. They're going to make it look good. And this could just be the beginning of new changes to Star Wars. Who knows? But the idea, the one saving grace of this decision is that it clears out a lot of the speculation. It clears out a lot of videos. Nobody's going to be making Obi-Wan film videos on YouTube anymore. Nobody's going to be talking about the Boba Fett movie. Nobody's going to be speculating about what solo movie we could get next. All of the focus goes on Episode 9. That could be good. That could be exactly what we need to get the hype built up for that film, because there's a lot of pressure on Episode 9, both financially and critically and just from a branding perspective. It's got to nail it. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts. But Al, I appreciate the question. Al, I appreciate the support, brother. Thank you so much. And yeah, that's awesome. All right, here's one from Derek Lawback. I just thought this was a good comment. He says, exactly. Sucks about Obi-Wan, but refocusing and slowing production I think is a good thing. I didn't need a Fett film either, so while losing Obi-Wan sucks, at the end of the day, this probably strengthens the brand, reduces timeline jumping around, refocusing on quality than quantity. And that's the thing, but here's what's interesting. Lucasfilm has not made an official statement about this. Instead, it's just getting brought through by the media. Lucasfilm needs to come out and make a statement talking about quality over quantity. It's like they can't even admit that anything is going wrong. That's a huge PR mistake, in my opinion. They need to talk about course correction. They need to talk about this move. And overall, I think it's a logical move. But the fact that they're so ambiguous about it leaves room for the interpretation that the media and the haters are making. And that's not the media's fault necessarily. It's not the haters' fault necessarily. That's Kathy Kennedy's fault. You're the president of this whole fucking company. Get out there and say some shit. You realize she didn't even say anything about The Last Jedi? Like, there's not a lot of statements about her talking about the divide at all. There's really not a lot of statements about her talking about Solo. As the president, as the face of the company, you need to come out there and say something. So I don't know, man. That's just my thoughts on it, but I'm going to leave it there. Thank you, everyone who commented on the video. Whether you're a hardcore hater or a big fan of Star Wars, you're welcome here. Just, you know, if you're absurd, we're probably going to call you out on either side. All right, let's finish off the show talking about some more Disney news. Disney is apparently going to acquire those Fox assets. Now, if you've been following this story, of course, Disney is trying to purchase the Fox assets for both its streaming service and the ability for the MCU to have the Fantastic Four and the X-Men back. Let's be totally real. That's all that the nerds give a fuck about. We don't really care about The Simpsons being on that streaming service. We want the X-Men back. But yeah, so that's what's going on. And Comcast entered the fray a couple of weeks ago, offering a huge cash offering, which threw everything out of whack. At the time, Comcast said they would do $65 billion in an all-cash offering for the same deal that Disney was trying to get for those assets. Just yesterday, Disney counter-offered with an absurd $71 billion offer, which is said to be 50% stock and 50% cash. You will remember that that was one of the hang-ups, that the Comcast offer being completely in cash and the Disney offer being completely in stock gave Comcast a slight edge when it came to getting that bid. Now, the increase in price and the fact that it will be half cash has apparently made Fox very interested in the new Disney offer. Oh, and there's another note here. Apparently, some of the debt that Fox has is going to be bought up by Disney as well, and that's speculated to be anywhere between $10 and $15 billion. So what you're really looking at here is an $82 to $87 billion offer. That is absolute crazy town. As I have said when the Time Warner AT&T thing went on, the corporate wars have begun, man. These companies are going to start throwing money at each other, trying to get those assets and that distribution. So they've signed documents, but just like before, the offer is not ironclad. So essentially, even though Fox is like, yes, we are doing that deal, they're still kind of like, unless Comcast, you got anything to say about this? What do you think? What do you think? So basically, they've signed papers, but there will be a penalty if Fox decides to not do this deal with Disney. But that penalty is like, it's not going to hurt at all if they get an extra $20 billion from Comcast. So for now, the place where this story stands is like, if you've been kind of rooting for Disney and you were like, ah, man, it really looked like Comcast was going to swoop in. Right now, I would say it's probably an 80% chance that Disney is going to purchase these assets, and then we will be getting that completed MCU. It'll be a big deal moving forward in tech, but there's still a little bit of a possibility that Comcast doubles down, makes another crazy offer, and then maybe we'll wait to see if Disney could counter that. I don't know, but either way, this is getting a little bit out of control. I mean, $85 billion, that's a ton of money. That's some pretty crazy serious cash. So that's the story. I want to know what you think about it. I mean, do you think this is good? Are you excited for Disney to get this stuff back? I know there's a lot of hate for Disney out there right now. It's crazy to me, to be quite honest, but I'm actually a big fan of them getting the Fox and Fantastic Four. Even if like Comcast buys the Fox assets and then sells those licenses back to Marvel, I'm cool with that. That would be pretty hype. I just want to see what the MCU and Kevin Feige and all those people will do with the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. As far as like it being a monopoly or whatever, I'm not concerned about that at all. Constant flow of new content is being out there. This is a really weird time in media, so I'm not really concerned about that. What are your thoughts about it? Are you excited? Are you disappointed? Do you want Comcast to get it? Do you want Disney to get it? Whatever you were thinking about this, let me know in the comments section below. You can click below to watch more dope videos. You can click our icon to subscribe to get all of our future content. As I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and nerdy day, and I will see you in the next video.